What the hell happened to Tai Tuivasa? I love Tai Tuivasa, but man, it's tough to see him fight these days. This past weekend, Tai added a fourth loss to his punishing losing streak and got finished again, this time by marching Tabora on his back, beating the hell out of him from his back and getting a rear naked choke. And this fight in particular showed just how shallow Tai's skill set is and how little he has improved, given how he was trying to use his quote-unquote grappling to get back up to his feet. And by grappling, I mean he was trying his hardest to Derek Lewis and just get back up using pure power. This is following 3 bad stoppages in the last year or so, and this has dropped Tai Tuivasa all the way to number 10, which is crazy to think about considering just 2 years ago, Tai Tuivasa was the number 3 ranked heavyweight contender. Yeah, I forgot about that too. Tai was the number 3 ranked heavyweight facing Cyril Gane, who is the interim champ at one point. And again, it's crazy to think that Tai Tuivasa had a solid possibility at facing John Jones for the title. So what went wrong? How did Tai Tuivasa damn near get to the pinnacle of the UFC heavyweight division and then fall off as quickly as he rose? And most importantly, what does the fall off of a guy like Tai Tuivasa mean for the heavyweight division? Is the skill level of heavyweights finally catching up to the other divisions? And is this build of heavyweight not viable anymore? But you know who's a heavyweight that's not built like this? Me. As you can tell by this fine physique, this hairless physique, that I've been using Manscaped products actually even before this partnership, and I've been loving my lawnmower 3.0. But today, Manscaped sent me over the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. It comes with the conditioner, the balm, the beard shampoo, and a couple brushes and combs, and of course the main event, the Beard Hedger, which comes with a lot of guard sizes, so I'm able to trim down my beard exactly to the length that I set my trimmer to. And it just works like a charm. And you know, my beard isn't the biggest, but I put some balm on just to keep the hairs down and smell good. And if you want to look this good, go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off plus free shipping when you use promo code TLF20 at checkout. That's 20% off plus free international shipping with promo code TLF20 at manscaped.com. So our story with Tai Tuivasa begins all the way back in 2017, 7 years ago when Tai made his UFC debut. Tai Tuivasa introduced the UFC world to his power, especially with his power in his legs, particularly when he leg kicked Rashad Coulter to the ground and followed that up with a flying knee to send Coulter to another world. Tai followed this up with a beautiful display of inside striking against Cyril Asker, and we're talking well-timed elbows, inside boxing, mixing it up to the head and body until finally one of those elbows opened up Asker and sent him to the ground. Tai then had a solid performance over former heavyweight champ Andrei Arlovski, where he banged out a unanimous decision. Though early in his career, he would slide into his first losing streak. With that win over Andrei Arlovski, Tai got the chance to face another big name in the division in Junior Dos Santos, and he was actually having a pretty good performance, especially on the inside when he had JDS on the fence. He was landing giant low kicks, nasty elbows, and was doing really good with his inside boxing. That was up until JDS landed a huge right hand as Tai was coming in, got full mount, and rained hammers on Tai until he got the finish. Tai would then lose a unanimous decision against Blagoy Ivanov by simply not landing enough and getting timed well in the striking. Finally, Tai would lose his next fight against Sergey Spivak, where we would first see his lack of grappling. Tai would get taken down a lot in this fight, especially in the first round, but credit to Tai, he was able to get back up in most of these takedowns. However, in the second, he finally stayed down and was caught by an arm triangle choke and was put to sleep. But all of a sudden, Tai would flip the script from being on a bad losing streak to a career-defining winning streak. It would start with his beatdown of 7-foot giant Stefan Struve, where Tai would bring Struve to his world by backing up the giant to the cage and utilizing inside boxing, eventually finding a heavy uppercut, ending this fight entirely. Tai then made quick work of Harry Hunsucker, which started with a well-timed right hand, followed by another sending Hunsucker to the ground for some ground and pound and an eventual finish. Then we would finally get to Tai's first breakout performance, at least to the greater casual audience. In an early firefight against Greg Hardy, Tai himself got rocked bad by a Hardy right hand, and when it looked like Greg Hardy was going to close out the show, it was Tai Tuivasa who came back with a huge left hook while backing up to the fence, and it was Tai who closed out the show. This would be followed by a classic shoey off the fence that would make him a huge fan favorite. Tai would then take care of Augusto Sakai with blazing fast hand speed and melted Sakai on the fence. And of course, this was followed by another iconic, disgusting shoey. This star-defining win streak was finally topped off with by far Tai Tuivasa's biggest win in his career when he faced UFC heavyweight legend Derek Lewis in his hometown of Houston in the co-main event of a major UFC card. The first round was still a testament to how bad Tai Tuivasa's grappling is, in particular his takedown defense, as after a lot of clinching came a takedown by Derek Lewis. And the only reason why Tai was able to get back up was because Derek Lewis was looking to land bombs and not keep Tai on the ground, so Tai just ate a couple big shots to get back up. Derek Lewis would again be able to trip Tai and close out this round. Thankfully for Tai Tuivasa, the second would play more to his strengths as the two bowling balls chose to keep the fight standing and banging. Each man would have their moments until Tai landed a giant left hand that rocked Derek Lewis to the cage, giving Tai the opportunity to land a short but devastating elbow. And I've said this before and I'll say this again, as nasty as the elbow was, judging by the way Derek Lewis fell, I honestly think he just gave up. But no matter, this was a monumental win for Tai Tuivasa. This would skyrocket him from number 11 to the number 3 ranked contender and set up a banger of a match in Paris against Ciryl Gane. And I feel like this fight doesn't get talked about as much as it should, and it was personally my favorite fight of the year. But Tai came out this fight super patient actually, and kept moving forward and trying to cut off a slick Ciryl Gane, and at times caught him with some nasty leg kicks and strikes. The second would start the same way, with Tai stalking Ciryl while he was landing consistently on the outside, until suddenly Tai found his timing with a huge overhand right hand that took Gane to the ground. And man, in another universe, Tai would be all over Ciryl Gane and finish this fight and become the number 1 contender. But in this universe, as soon as Ciryl Gane got rocked, he found Tai's weakness, his body. Ciryl immediately came back with a giant body kick and punches to the body that would prevent Tai in the second from getting a finish. Ciryl kept putting the pressure on Tai with heavy strikes to the body, and they were definitely affecting how Tai was moving. And of course, the pressure would finally catch up to Tai Tuivasa as Ciryl came upstairs to the head and finally took down Tai with a series of punches. And maybe I'm a delusional Tai Tuivasa fan, but I really thought that despite this loss, simply due to the fact that Tai was able to knock down Ciryl Gane, something Francis Ngannou wasn't able to do in their championship fight, I thought that Tai was at least going to stay in the top 5, maybe have some good fights with some top contenders, and boy was I wrong. I'd first get a taste of how wrong I was when Tai went up against a legit top contender in Sergey Pavlovich, and he got absolutely ran through in less than a minute. It started with getting dropped by a Sergey jab, and Tai always tries to recreate that success he had with answering fire with fire in the Greg Hardy fight when he gets hurt, but this time that didn't work with Sergey, as Sergey dropped him again with a right hand and ended him right then and there. In less than a minute, Tai's face went from this to this. Following this quick loss was a reminder of how Tai hasn't improved through the years. With his fight against Alexander Volkov, he kept getting caught at the end of Volkov's strikes, and though he was landing leg kicks rather consistently, he had no success other than that. He got dropped and lit up at the end of the first, and though he was kind of successful at making this fight a little dirty, bringing it to his type of fight towards the middle of the second, eventually Volkov caught Tai off balance as Tai was trying to throw a low kick and expose the lack of grappling again from Tai Tuivasa, went to full mount and finished this fight via Ezekiel choke. Which brings us to today. Tai's most recent loss to Marcin Tybura further exposed the lack of improvement from Tai's side, especially in the grappling department, as he easily got mounted and rear naked choked. So what happened to Tai Tuivasa? Well, I hate to break it to you if you haven't already realized, but I don't think Tai Tuivasa was ever an elite heavyweight, let alone a top 3 heavyweight contender. Tai Tuivasa is your classic 50-50 fat heavyweight. He is almost literally a 50-50 fighter in the UFC. And the weird thing about Tai is that his 50-50s came in streaks. 3-1, 3 loss, 5-1, 4 loss. And luckily for Tai Tuivasa, that time he kept flipping heads led to Derek Lewis, who himself is a 50-50 fighter. And again, Tai won that coin toss and leapfrogged all the way up to number 3. Tai never really improved to the point where he evolved into a top 3 heavyweight. Rather, he just got favorable matchups, and by favorable, I mean guys that didn't take Tai to the ground and won the 50-50 fights he needed to win. So unlike most downfall videos, Tai never really regressed. He just never really improved and finally got exposed when he got matched up with a reasonably skilled heavyweight, which showed his true skill level. Which brings us to the greater topic. Is the era of the fat heavyweight over? I've been pretty harsh on Tai, but considering he has to cut to the heavyweight limit and his face looks noticeably different at weigh-ins is insane for a heavyweight. I don't think this build, the quote-unquote fat heavyweight, is viable in the UFC anymore. And by fat heavyweight, I mean the heavyweight who's just big as shit, relies on landing something big, and is not really skilled in grappling or even technical volume striking. I think that's why we first saw the decline of Derek Lewis, who is the quintessential fat heavyweight of the UFC, who slid into a mostly losing streak like Tai Tuivasa recently. I think competent heavyweights with solid striking and most importantly solid grappling are going to populate the division more and more, and I think the general skill level of the division is starting to catch up. With Tom Aspinall leading the charge on the heavyweight 2.0, I think we're going to see less Derek Lewis's and Tai Tuivasas in the top. And that's not to say we won't still see fat heavyweights in the UFC anymore. For one, skilled heavyweights as of now are really hard to come by, and so fat heavyweights still have a pretty good shot at most heavyweights, and they're also fan favorites and will always have a spot in the promotion. But again, I will say the skill floor of top heavyweights has risen at least to a point where it has literally and figuratively trimmed the fat with Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa going down the ranks recently. But what do you guys think? Is the era of the fat heavyweight over? Are guys like Tai Tuivasa and Derek Lewis just done? Is Tai Tuivasa himself done? I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts on the heavyweight division, especially when it comes to these guys. And again, thank you for watching. Peace.